Oh, ahoy! Last Christmas I talked about Call of Duty and was bad at it. This year I'm gonna save the trouble of talking about a campaign mode nobody played and just skip straight to multiplayer.
Gosh, I stink.
Great, that's done. Now it's time to sit back and soak in the holiday spirit by opening some presents.
Alright, what do we got here first? Oh hell yeah, Mortal Kombat on the SNES! Mortal Kombat is one of my favorite franchises of all time, yet I didn't spend as much time with the original as I probably should have. I don't own a Super Nintendo anymore, the one I had as a kid completely deteriorated, but I'm still happy to have this because it's a memento to my favorite franchise and to a console I hold so near and dear to my heart. Oh well, what else we got here? Oh hell yeah, a Super Nintendo! This was my OG console growing up, and while I never pegged it as one of my favorites, it still means a lot to me as a gamer. Aw, this is so sweet. I can now finally start collecting SNES titles and play those games that never made their way to the Super Nintendo Switch emulator, like Aladdin, Eat the Cat, Contra 3, Mortal Kombat. Oh!
Mortal Kombat. Ignore what the Tekken fanboys say. Mortal Kombat is the most successful fighting franchise of all time, grossing over 70 million sales across the entire series. It's not only from the games, the comic books, TV shows, and movies all help make Mortal Kombat one of the highest grossing media franchises out there, raking in all the money in the world. It all started in 1991 when at Midway Studios, Ed Boon and John Tobias decided they wanted to make a side-scrolling beat-em-up starring action movie star Jean-Claude Van Damme. But for one reason or another, Jean-Claude Van Damme couldn't do it, so the duo decided to instead make a fantasy fighting game to compete with the highly popular Street Fighter. Taking inspiration from Pit Fighter, Boon and Tobias would film actors performing various moves and digitize them to create the fighter sprites, and thus giving this game a sense of photorealism. Yes, all the characters are portrayed by actors except for the sub-boss Goro, and thank God, imagine running into this guy at the grocery store. Now to differentiate Mortal Kombat from all the other fighting games, Midway decides to add a little bit of this and a little bit of that. The blood and gore from Mortal Kombat is what made this game a phenomenon and what caused a whole lot of controversy regarding video game violence. Look at your copy of Kirby Return to Dreamland. Notice all the fun colors, but then at the bottom left there's this little skin tag. We have Mortal Kombat to thank for that. Now not all the credit goes to Mortal Kombat for the creation of the ESRB. Video games have been getting BS for a while, with some of it being unfair and some of it being very, very fair. But then Mortal Kombat comes into the scene with photorealistic characters ripping each other's heads off, and now every game is required to have an age rating. Almost. Mortal Kombat initially released to arcades in 1991, but the next year it was announced to be coming to home consoles via the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Game Boy, and the Game Gear.
The Game Gear?
The commercial for it was pretty insane, starting with some kid standing in the middle of the street shouting, "Mortal Kombat!" before showing another kid shouting, "Mortal Kombat!" And then just a bunch of rapid cuts to gameplay while people run around and mosh in the streets.
It's so 90s, it's so bad, I love it. The commercial for Mortal Kombat's home release is one of the most famous and recognizable video game commercials out there. It was a huge hit in arcades, and the fact that it was coming to consoles was a delight to gamers and terrifying to parents.
The hype was perfectly captured, cause come Mortal Monday, you can have Mortal Kombat in your house.
Oh, you meant the game.
Now, it should be noted that it didn't make a nice full transition towards consoles. Hardware at the time wasn't capable of containing the whole arcade game, so there were plenty of compromises made. The Super Nintendo version was considered the more faithful adaptation, so thanks Santa. But wait, the Christmas magic doesn't end there.
I was checking my Christmas stocking, so I was left the Game Boy version and the Super Game Boy accessory. Now that's what the holidays are all about. Packaged Christmas cookies, eggnog, and Mortal Kombat. Popping this thing right in. Oh god. It just feels so slow and so clunky. I'm pretty sure the game's ODing on Pepto-Bismol. I guess take Mortal Kombat, put up against a cheese grater, and that's what you get. Now sure, I understand how impressive it must have been for them to cram all this into the handhelds of the time, but still, maybe it's not a question of whether or not they could, maybe they should have stopped and thought whether or not they should. God, I love Jeff Goldblum. There's a reason I have a picture of him inside my fridge. Alright, enough of that. Starting up Mortal Kombat, here we have the main menu with our two options of Tournament Mode and Options. Now the story of Mortal Kombat is as follows. 500 years ago, the evil sorcerer Shang had been banished to Earthrealm, and by using the help of a Shokan named Goro, he seized control of the Mortal Kombat tournament, which is in place to give Earthrealm a chance to fend off the invasion of the evil Emperor Shao Kahn. 10 consecutive victories means Shao Kahn can merge Earthrealm with Outworld, and unfortunately for us, in the past 500 years, Goro had won 9 straight tournaments, and it is up to the new generation of warriors to compete in the tournament to prevent that fatal 10th victory. This story is given to us piece by piece via these stills that pop up during the menu, but there is also a tie-in comic book that only a f***ing nerd will own. Guess who that is? So Mortal Kombat is a tournament, but it isn't like a normal tournament where there are brackets. Instead, it's more of a gauntlet where to win you have to by yourself beat everybody else and the champion last. This always felt like BS if I do say. See, Goro is a 9-time champion and all he seemingly had to do is win 1 fight against somebody who's already fought 10 fights. Let's look at the roster. We have 7 fighters here, all with their own personal reasons to be partaking in the tournament. First up is Johnny Cage, a cocky action movie star that's clearly based on Jean-Claude Van Damme! Interestingly, Johnny Cage is the only character to be left out of the Game Boy version.
Damn.
We have Kano, a mercenary of the Black Dragon, Sonya Blade, a member of the US Special Forces who pursued Kano to the island, Raiden, the God of Thunder who only in this game has his name spelled with a Y instead of an I,
Please care.
Sub-Zero, an ice-powered ninja from the Lin Kuei, his ultimate rival Scorpion, a resurrected ninja killed by Sub-Zero who was returned to Earthrealm to get his revenge, and last but not least, Liu Kang, a Shaolin monk who is pretty much the main character of the series. So we select our character and the game goes on to show the layout of the tournament and starts us at the very bottom. We go up first against the other 6 characters in simple basic one-on-ones and the last fight against yourself.
Wasn't that an old Chinese proverb that to win any battle you have to first win a battle against yourself? Was that Oprah? Sun Tzu? I don't know, look at this gingerbread house.
Gameplay is simple, you fight your opponent until you fully deplete their health bar or have it lower than yours by the time the time limit expires. Each fight is a best of 3 rounds, so we need to defeat our opponent twice and then we can advance in the tournament. Now, at its core, the controls are pretty simple. We have a D-pad to move our character around and 4 buttons for attacks. High punch, low punch, and high kick, low kick. Mortal Kombat also introduced the concept of a dedicated block button. In other games, you block by holding back on the controller, which always felt a bit counterintuitive to me. It also introduced the concept of juggling, which is hitting your opponent multiple times while they're suspended in the air. At least that's what Wikipedia said. Juggling would have more of a presence in future Mortal Kombat games, but in this one it's very rare for me to see it happen. Like, I had to scour my footage to find these 2 instances. Now, to succeed in Mortal Kombat is to know the button combinations and the special moves. Combos aren't really a thing to know in the game as there are really only 2 proper combos at our disposal, mashing the Y button and mashing the B button. But combining one of your attacks with the direction on the D-pad performs other types of attacks. Most notably, the down high punch executes an uppercut, which is a very strong hit that helps with distancing, and the back low kick that performs a leg sweep that is definitely one way to be f***ing annoying. All characters share these moves, but when it comes to special moves, every single character has their own unique thing. Here it takes a sequence of rapid button presses with the last 2 inputs being pressed at the same time to perform a special attack to dish out more punishment. Now I should mention something. These days Mortal Kombat spills its guts to us, in more than one way that is. It lays out all the special moves and combos to you, but back in the day there was no such thing. You had to figure it out. Experiment with button presses and see if your character does something cool, and if so, were you paying attention? How did I do that? Can I do it again? But these days, with the internet being what it is, we could easily just look all this up. But gotta say, going between a phone and TV screen is a bit of a hassle, so I took to writing the codes down on my hand, but I can't see when I'm holding the controller. Regardless, learning and utilizing the special moves is crucial to getting far in Mortal Kombat. When you finally win 2 rounds against your opponent, the screen flashes at us to finish him. It gives us a few seconds to perform a button combination to further humiliate our opponent with a gruesome and bloody finishing move.
Oh right, this is the Super Nintendo version. Silly me. Remember that controversy I mentioned earlier? Well, it really came to play here when bringing the game over to the consoles. To keep it simple, Sega was eating a lot of shit for the amount of mature games that were making its way to their console, while Nintendo was sitting preaching its wholesome family values. So when Mortal Kombat was making its way towards consoles, Nintendo had its version heavily censored, removing all the blood and toning down the fatalities. Sega, on the other hand, had a cheat code you can enter to enable the blood and violence, which definitely drew fans more towards their version, because, come on, it's Mortal Kombat. If there's no this and that, is it really Mortal Kombat? Going this route definitely negatively affected sales for the Super Nintendo version, and proved to be a dumb idea from Nintendo altogether, which thankfully they didn't do again. But hey, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. It didn't remove fatalities altogether. But considering there's only 7 characters in the game and each one had 1 fatality, I'm gonna do a quick comparison from the originals to the Nintendo censored ones.
Scorpion's fatality is iconic, him removing his mask to reveal a skull and breathing fire into the opponent to burn him to a crisp. This one was not ultra at all, and neither was Sonya Blades, who'd blow you a kiss and then also burn the opponent to a crisp. Liu Kang is an interesting case. See, all he does is perform a cartwheel and an uppercut. It's definitely the weakest fatality the game had, cause it's even a question if it kills the opponent. The screen doesn't even go dark like it does with every other character. I guess maybe it's cause Liu Kang's a monk and doesn't believe in killing, so that's why he doesn't really execute the opponent. So glad they abandoned that concept. But that wouldn't make sense either because the game still calls it a fatality afterward. Ugh, my head just hurts thinking about it. So 3 fatalities out of 7 are unchanged, which is pretty good. There are 2 fatalities that fall under the good substitute category, those being Raiden and Sub-Zero. Before, Raiden shoots lightning into you, causing your head to explode. Now he shoots lightning into you and turns you to ash. It's not a bad job at all, it doesn't feel out of place. Now Sub-Zero is the special child here. His fatality of ripping off your head while the spine cord followed was stuff of legend. It's the big one that created this birthmark. Here Sub-Zero freezes you in place and shatters you. It's actually a pretty good replacement. Sure, it's replacing the most iconic kill in the franchise, but it's a lot better than what follows. Johnny Cage used to just punch your head clean off, but here he just puts his foot against you and you die. Does his foot smell bad or something? Is this supposed to be him kicking his leg through the opponent? If so, they forgot to show coming out the other side. This one just looks janky and kinda like the game glitches here. Kano had a grisly fatality. He'd reach into your chest and pull out your still beating heart. In the Super Nintendo version, he reaches into your chest and pulls out nothing. Did someone forget the red marker to work or something? What the hell is he doing?
Got your heart.
See, I appreciate the Sub-Zero finisher because that looks like they put effort to create a decent replacement. These are not it at all. But still, 2 out of 7 fatalities being lame isn't a bad percentage. So anyone dogging on the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat? Just wait a few years. Now in between every few fights, you'll have this test your might minigame where you gotta mash the buttons to build up your meter until it's past the line and press the block button to chop. It's pretty unnecessary, but it's a cute distraction, I don't mind that at all. Can't get past the stone though, I don't got that much finger strength. Something else that happens every so often is the appearance of a green ninja giving you cryptic clues on how to find them. This is who we've come to know as Reptile, making his debut as a secret boss fight that we had to unlock by fulfilling a nice list of criteria. This list included fighting on the pit stage and you had to look to the moon to see if Santa Claus flies by.
I knew it was a Christmas game.
If so, you had to proceed to get a double flawless victory without blocking and perform a fatality to earn a chance to fight him. Now, it's quite a checklist to get through, but fortunately on the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat, it eliminates the need for Santa to fly by the moon. So basically, anytime you're fighting on the pit stage, you have a chance to fight Reptile by just getting a double flawless without blocking and performing a finisher.
But it's still easier said than done. Getting through a fight without taking any damage is definitely skill-based, but it also takes plenty of luck. It stings whenever I eat the tiniest hit that ruins my flawless. So on my journey to try to fight Reptile, I decided to cheat a little bit.
The game has 6 stages, and you fight through each stage in a specific order, with the first one being the courtyard and the 6th being Goro's lair, and then it just cycles over. Now, if you lose a fight after jumping back into the tournament to try again, it skips you to the next stage. The pit is the 4th stage in Mortal Kombat, so all I had to do is once the tournament starts, let the computer beat me up till I get to my desired stage, and I can face a very easy opponent and have a high chance of getting a double flawless.
Or so I thought.
Because I think Midway foresaw this attempt, and after a while of being AFK, the computer just starts tossing you all over the place, grabbing you from wherever. I mean, look at that!
So resetting, new strategy. I'm going to look like I'm putting in effort, but losing the first stage, win the second stage, lose the third stage against the second opponent, and huzzah! We are on the pit stage, and I should have an easier opponent since I lost the last fight.
Let's do this, big opportunity. I'm gonna jump it and I was honestly ready to give up trying to fight Reptile, but then an idea popped in my head. If I lose the first round and have a flawless victory in round 2 and 3, that should technically be a double flawless. Let's give it a try. Alright, that's round 2 and round 3. Perform the iconic Scorpion finisher and it worked! Alright, so we fight the Green Ninja Reptile this exclusive 8th stage, and he basically combines the Sub-Zero and Scorpion special moves, and that's it really.
I will say I wish they kinda gave him some kinda unique moveset or something. But then again, I get not wanting to spend long man hours developing a moveset for a character that rarely is gonna be seen. So sure, I guess combine Scorpion and Sub-Zero's moves, but I don't know, maybe change the Sub-Zero Ice Blast to be green, like, I feel like that's not asking for a lot.
He's really difficult to fight and absolutely busted my ass, but it still felt great to experience. Losing to Reptile boots you back to the tournament. You had your shot and you flubbed it, that's it. But what happens if you win? Does it unlock Reptile? I always thought that this emblem here in the character select screen looked a little off, and after finding out there was a secret character, my younger self thought that was gonna be a slot. If you find them and beat them, you unlock them. But no. Beating Reptile grants you 10 million points. Now I understand that an arcade machine accumulating as many points to have your name in the leaderboards means something, and having an extra 10 million will really give you a boost. But the f*** does the 10 million points do for me here? Whenever playing Super Mario World, I always wondered what the heck the point of this point meter here is, or why do they still do it? Who cares? What makes it worse is that whenever you lose a match, all your points get sent back to 0. So hey, good job fighting Reptile and beating him, better hope no bullshit happens later and those million points disappear. And while we're on the topic of secret characters, another character technically made their debut here in Mortal Kombat as well.
Oh, sorry. I'm just feeling a little festive right now. I want to take a break from the video to read you a Christmas story. Join me here by the fire as we read The Carol of Ermac. As many games are, Mortal Kombat was always surrounded by rumors. The story of Ermac began when fans at the arcade would access the game's audits to see stats like how many times Goro was fought or Shang Tsung's beat, and even how many reptiles were found. But right underneath the reptile stats, they showed something called Ermac. The way it was grouped with Reptile made people believe that Ermac was actually another hidden character you had to find, and thus the speculations begun. This, coupled with the fact that a magazine published a photo that a fan sent in claiming to have fought a red-clad ninja, made people think that yes, this is legit. However, it was not. Midway themselves said that this was not true at all. Ermac stood for Error Macro and was used to track how many times the game would have coding errors, and the photo that the fan had sent? Doctored. But it was also reported to be a thing that on the Sega version of Mortal Kombat, if you overplayed Scorpion, the game would glitch and turn him red. Midway would go on to remove the Ermac listing on the audit menu to deter any more theories, and would continue to deny the existence of Ermac by adding the title screen, Ermac isn't real, in Mortal Kombat 2. But then, he was. In Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, Ermac was created as a playable character, with his powers being a literal glitch. Isn't it funny, one of Mortal Kombat's coolest characters made their debut in the very beginning as a fuck-up. Wait a minute, this isn't a Christmas story. It's just a picture of a possum.
Now Mortal Kombat 1 is fun. Mortal Kombat is a classic. I like Mortal Kombat 1. I'm saying this now so that it's established that I think positively on my experience with Mortal Kombat before I go into this rant. The thing with reviewing old classics that people cherish is that it's a rule of thumb to always give it merit while critiquing. That was always odd to me because sure the game is great but it isn't devoid of issues. Take the original Super Mario Bros. Something that I kinda didn't like is how you couldn't move backwards because the screen locked, so in case you second guess something or want to check it out, good luck buddy, reset the whole damn thing. It's a valid thing to be irked about, but considering it's a classic of classics, when I mentioned it to someone they started leaving shit on my door.
Come on!
So keep that in mind when I say this about Mortal Kombat. The controls sometimes are really uncooperative. The game just has a hard time reading my inputs and just completely doesn't do what I ask it to do at times. And don't get me wrong, it's not because I'm misclicking. With my hand on the Bible and pointing at a picture of that lady, I just press the back button. Why the fuck is he jumping? It becomes worse when you're trying to do a sequence of buttons to form a special move or a finisher at the end of a fight and the controller must have snuck off to have a drink or something and gets boozy. You know, one time I was playing a Sub-Zero and was trying to do an ice blast, but the game couldn't read my inputs, so I kept attempting it and ended up launching 2 of them, which caused me to reverse freeze myself. And you know what? I bet this is Midway telling me to go fuck myself. The inconsistency in this game is a bit problematic at times. I understand that this is the first game in the series back in 1991, but things like certain hits not connecting when they definitely did and hits that definitely didn't connect connecting bothers me. Also, I hate how if 2 players launch projectiles at each other, whoever's hits first cancels out the other's projectile, which I feel like is BS. Having them pop into each other and cancel each other out or just have it hit both players is a detail I think isn't hard to program. I mean, if they can program that Johnny Cage's nut punch doesn't work on Sonya Blade because of, well, anatomy, then they could have given more attention to detail here. These things add to the game's grueling difficulty. You can play the game on the easiest setting, but as you win, the difficulty curve rises up like a motherfucker. I'm saying this right in time, just as I arrive to the endurance matches. So after fighting your way up through the tournament, defeating all 6 other characters and yourself, you arrive at the 3 endurance matches where you have to beat 2 fighters, and by God, it is bullshit. See, the thing with Mortal Kombat 1's difficulty curve is while the rise in difficulty is steep, the decrease after losing matches is a slow way down. It gets really apparent in these endurance matches as you have to first deplete one fighter's health bar, watch them explode, and take out the other. I hate these endurance matches. I don't get why I had to do 3 of these bouts, just one would have been fine. And I know maybe this is me complaining about dealing with annoying unfair fights, but damn it, have you played Mortal Kombat? I spent more time losing in these 3 bouts than I did any of the single matches or the boss matches. Getting through these is such a chore, and anyone who's played Mortal Kombat knows what I'm talking about. Now sure, that's the point of the word endurance, so maybe the game is accomplishing something here. My SNES controller is definitely enduring it. It also doesn't help getting through 2 fighters with the difficulty curve being what it is, considering that the game just cheats. You know when you play a fighting game and you just spam a move to win matches and you feel bad about it because you're just cheesing your way through the game rather than learning how to properly fight? With Mortal Kombat, don't. This game cheats. The computer will absolutely abuse moves on you and spam attacks. Another nitpick to throw in there, why not? Anytime you lose, you get booted back to the character select screen in case you want to change your fighter, but you're likely frustrated and tapping the button and you end up selecting Kano by accident because the select icon is always on him. Like, they can program the protection of lady parts, but they couldn't just put the damn thing on the character I was using. With the controls being clunky and stiff, you'll find yourself trying to maintain offense with a special move, but the game's not gonna read my input and the opponent will just take advantage as you do nothing. Oh, but this gets quadrupled once you get through the 3 endurance matches and reach Goro. After beating the last endurance match and taking out much frustration with a fatality, Goro just jumps from the ceiling and the fight kicks off. Holy shit! I love Goro. I think he's one of the coolest characters in the series. I mean, this is a franchise where sometimes the sub-boss is more interesting than the actual boss. And it all starts here with Goro, a giant 4-armed beast that deals a lot of damage, takes little himself, and spends the fight just ruthlessly walking towards you like a serial killer. I mean, he hits you by flexing. Goro is another instance where you have to be cheap and have to play with bullshit, because if you don't, he will. Goro gets his hands on you and Jesus Christ, good night, I can't do anything and my health bar is just gone. Trying to keep your distance is your only option, but Goro can still launch his own projectiles or just leap across the whole f***ing stage. It is absolutely stressful fighting Goro as he just doesn't stop coming towards you. What doesn't help is that he also gets invincibility frames. I mean, for fuck's sake, that just flew right past him. Now, I always hated Mortal Kombat for giving bosses invincibility frames. It's the side of fries that comes with the bullshit sandwich. But all this makes beating Goro feel like an accomplishment and that you just survived hell. Once you beat Goro, it's on to the final fight against Shang, who has the ability to transform into other characters and use their moveset against you, including fucking Goro.
Oh, come on, I just beat him and now I gotta face him again?
Shang Tsung always felt like the most least interesting final boss because he just turned into other characters, but when he turned into Goro, I hate him because apparently it's his favorite form to change to. He'll change to Goro, I'll run for my life. He changes away. Okay, good, I can attack him now. He instantly changes back to Goro and fucks me up. Okay, so the Sub-Zero reverse freeze and Shang Tsung's Goro are the biggest f*** yous Midway ever given me. Anyway, we beat Shang Tsung, the screen flashes, and we see Shang Tsung do a little dance all as the character's souls leave his body, including your own?
What?
And the screen yells, outstanding, you are the Mortal Kombat Supreme Warrior. The game ends by showing the character you just used standing in front of the respective statue as their ending scrolls past, showing what the character does with their tournament win. Johnny Cage goes on to make a Mortal Kombat movie and some very successful sequels. Sure. These endings all fall alright with their characters, except for Raiden, who we'd go to know as the protector of Earthrealm, but in this game he's the type of god that couldn't care less, so he invites other gods to compete in the tournament, which caused the destruction of the planet. Have a nice day.
Never misspell that guy's name.
So after beating the game, all you can do is beat it all over again with a new character. Now, we can get a second player involved. It's fun competing with friends, though whoever has the moves written down in their hands is definitely going to have an unfair advantage.
And that's Mortal Kombat 1, and what can I say? We know that this is a successful project that spawned a money-making juggernaut. The first Mortal Kombat isn't a game you can write off as there was nowhere to go but up. It's a really good fighting game. The characters are iconic, the special moves and fatalities are great to pull off, the soundtrack kicks ass across all versions, the game visually looks great, the character models can look a little blurry and the movement is a little rough around the edges, but it's still incredible for the time. All the stages look great, and sure the pit is the simplest looking one, but considering that this has the whole reptile thing, gives it some mystique. Plus, it's the first stage fatality in the series. No button combo, just uppercut your opponent and you'll send them flying to the bottom of the pit where you fight Reptile. It's really smart what they did. They took the least interesting one visually and made it the most exciting place to fight in. The controls may be stiff, but you know, when it works, it's great. And you know what? Maybe beating tough opponents with controls that are working against you made beating them feel more rewarding. Mortal Kombat is a big success, and sure, it may have its flaws, but it doesn't change the impact this game made on the gaming industry altogether. If there's an official Hall of Fame for video games and this isn't on the first class, then I don't know if I consider it a valid Hall of Fame. I always felt bad that I never gave this game more attention. Mortal Kombat 2 was just the Mortal Kombat I played during my SNES years, but I played it now and I'm glad I did, because I really enjoyed my time with it. My SNES controller didn't though. Alright, that's enough of that. It's Christmas Eve, and it's time to open another present.
Alright, what else we got over here? Oh, hell yeah! The Doom 3 Collector's Edition for the original Xbox! I love Christmas. Because of this ever so cheerful holiday, I can now say I own this game 8 times!